On a scale of 1 to that,
Yes.
where do you think the turbo that I should end up with will end up?
Similar.
Welcome to a very special place, everybody. This lens is still dirty from when I got rained on last video. Hang on. Oh. Better. We're back. Almost a year later. JPR Imports. The most viewed video I've ever made. Also, they might be helping me out with a certain project this year. On a scale of 1 to that,
Yes.
where do you think the turbo that I should end up with will end up?
Similar. Something more like this you could probably get away with, which is just your basic Borg Warner S400. It's a pretty reasonable turbo, anywhere from $600 to $800 you can get, and it's probably good for about 750 horse.
I think the one on my Subaru fits in the intake. I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, but first, one-piece engine might be goal. This is
your baby right here. Yep.
I think this costs more than the car. This literally costs more than the car.
Pretty exotic stuff at this point. Definitely not cheap anymore. Not that it ever was, but
do it right, do it once.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is a Series D and it's in beautiful shape. The step wear on the plates is beautiful. Even the condition of the housings look pretty good.
In your brutally honest opinion, is there any chance this car drives by Sevens Day? Because I know that is a...
If you brought me a suitcase of money.
Well...
We are, in fact, almost building a car as opposed to just installing a motor.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not only that, as similar to this, you're going to have to get manifolds built and all that stuff.
We talked a lot over Instagram DMs, and the affectionate names for the two specs that we came up with, like as of 30 minutes ago, was the as soon as possible spec and the kitchen sink spec. Honestly, I rode a 500 horsepower car today, and I was like... This is gonna take a minute to get used to, so 650 is gonna be hellacious. But if I had a car that was, in terms of like the turbo sort of topped out at the 650, 700 range, but it had down travel to like 500, would that be possible all in the same setup, or would you have to swap?
Oh, sure. I mean, like I said, what we're doing is basically it's your limit that we're concerned about, not what you can do underneath of it.
Gotcha.
So anything that can make 750 horsepower will easily do 500 all day. So that's what we're kind of looking for. And again, I don't think you totally need the kitchen sink to achieve that. It sounds pretty good at 8,000 too.
I can imagine. They sound a lot better than anything I currently own, mostly because a lot of those things don't run. But the direction of this build, at least the guiding mission statement of it, is to have something that is, I know nothing's unkillable, but like pretty damn hard. I'm generally quite easy on cars in the right ways. Like my Subarus have lasted to 175,000 miles on stock head gaskets because I don't sit in fifth gear on the highway at 12 pounds of boost at 2,000 RPM. Like when it's time to be hard on the car, I'm hard on the car, but when it's not, I tend to be very gentle on them if I don't crash them like the STI, but we're not gonna talk about that. This is entirely my fault. So with this, where did we end up? In terms of the modifications that we're about to do, I changed my mind so many times, I don't even remember what the last decision was.
Well, some of the stuff that you were considering building into it was in the performance variety. Really what it comes down to is how hard you push it and how crazy you get while you're driving it. But we're going to build in some limitations on the ECU, so we'll keep you safe.
If it was just the bare like Series D as it came from the warehouse, how much does that usually go to unopened? 550
range, maybe 600 you could do pretty easily with a stock motor. Although we always have concern over the stock apex seals because they tend to be a little on the fragile side.
And so if you manage to get a Series D or even a Series C, they pretty much the like lateral options. You just do dowels, pins, apex seals, corner seals?
The C and D block, you know, basically are a little better fortified than the earlier motors.
So we're going no machining or like no clearancing.
We're doing side clearancing just to build you in a little bit of, you know, a little wiggle room. just to give you a little protection. But that should keep it pretty reasonable in the range that you're in, just in case.
Just for a little bit of that. Does anything have to? Well, I guess those will be clearance, so those will be machined.
Yes.
And then it's literally just like
all your apex seals, side seals, every compression seal and oil seal will be replaced, basically to bring it back up to, you know, to factory spec in a sense. But
side clearancing means like these?
Yes, on the sides of the rotor towards the tip. So if there's any flex at all with the shaft, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room so you don't pinch any side seals or corner seals.
Well, shoot. This is very exciting. Okay. There is another thing that I came by for, because this, I mean, it seems pretty under control in this place. Wait, I looked the wrong way. One thing that I wanted to consult you about, however, is I'm going to do not a very smart thing. And the car that this motor will be going into, it's not here. It's not in New York. I've never seen it with my own eyes. And it also hasn't run in 2 years. But it's down in Tennessee at Tiny as a Tail of the Dragon. And Ducky and I decided that we're gonna go fly down there. I'm gonna drive the Lexus if I don't break my back with the racing seats on the way down. Oh, wow. And we're gonna try and get it running for Rotary Rally, which is... Oh, jeez. Everything's gonna be just fine. So obviously, like, I haven't seen the car in person, which inhibits my ability to ask for what I need a little bit. So Tiny this morning sent me some videos, but I have no idea what I'm looking at, is what I realized about 3 seconds into them. So if I were to show you these, disregard the phone. My priorities are clearly elsewhere. This is the second motor that was in it, the JDM REW with supposedly 50,000 kilometers on it. Mm-hmm. Now, as the story goes, the previous owner was in the process of rebuilding this car, got the motor in, got it like to run, but not right. So he had like a box that he gave us of like old ECU stuff. So there's a Creddy,
yeah, you manage
the blue one, which I looked up and is discontinued. So I don't know how old that is. And then there is this AEM that looks like it's been rained on.
Well, none of that's going to help us or be a concern whatsoever.
There's also 2 OEM ones in the car. Mm-hmm. So out of 4 ECUs, they never got it to run right. I would say your reaction seems like, don't for the love of God rely on any of these things.
Oh, well, none of that'll work.
And my second question would be, do you happen to have an extra stock FD ECU?
Sure, probably. For what purpose?
To hopefully start the car.
I'll have to take a look. I may.
Cool. If we go through the basic stuff and like make sure the fuel pump exists, everything's getting power properly, because I don't think the wiring harness has been messed with too much outside of what is visible.
I think I'm going to be seeing you in the back of the tow truck, so...
I mean, I got AAA. I have my contingency plans, but I've been really inspired for better or worse by Vice Grip Garage lately. Tickle. And I figured, you know, big block carbureted Chevy, getting that running, how much worse could an electronically fuel injected rotary be?
Have you seen the gas tank outside?
Huh?
Let me show you.
Okay. Oh, lovely. Is that an E85 car?
Nope, but it's a car that's been sitting for a few years, and that's an FD fuel tank. And that's not going to run.
That's no good.
No.
Well, luckily, the fuel tank's already out of ours.
Oh, it is? Okay.
It has a little bit of superficial rust on the inside, but in terms of like this piece, that seems, I'm sorry. Dude, I'm really going like 0 to 200 as fast as possible. So the first phase of this process is like the completely unnecessary one of trying to get the motor that we're not going to use running. But part of the reason why I want to do that is because Jim gave me a tip that they're going for like $9,000 now running with like the full swap kit. And since we're not using harness, ECU, trans, motor, like anything from it, that could put quite a chunk out of the expense of this horrible financial mistake. I'm interested in doing whatever I can to get that motor running, or at least to prove that it runs enough to like make it worth something. But the other thing is like, it has all the struts.
Okay.
Which we weren't entirely sure of before. I have to get new tires for it because the other ones are like cross-hatch dry rotted, which is interesting. Usually I only see cracks in one direction.
I can't exactly recommend you doing this. If you get it running, it's very possible that you will find a way to destroy it by the time you get here.
Yeah. So
you may,
would you say the first step would be, or like, if we were to take precautionary measures to drive it for, like, I think it's 400 miles or something.
Okay.
For that 400 miles to make sure that it's safe. Obviously, with a car that's sitting, I would assume the oil metering pumps might be not something we want to rely on. So like maybe pre-mix and block those off.
Well, you don't even have to necessarily block it off, but you could pre-mix the gas before you leave. That's probably not a bad idea. Obviously, make sure the coolant and oil are all up, where they should be. And realistically, let the thing run for at least an hour, make sure all the fans are coming on and the thing behaves like a car before you jump in the car and start driving that kind of distance.
Fair enough.
Look, if you can get the thing running for an hour and it hasn't blown up just sitting on its own, then you may have a good chance. No stepping on it, cruising.
I'm just gonna...
No sending it.
No sending it.
No.
Hear that, me in the edit? No sending it.
Somehow the word no will get edited out, right?
Yeah.
Jim said send it.
Yeah. I guess one question is, if it still has the stock cats on it, can that be a problem if the premix and the OMPs are running?
Not necessarily for what you're doing, it shouldn't be.
Okay.
Again, like I said, especially if you don't exceed more than an ounce per gallon, you should be within the range of a usable amount.
Okay, well this sounds possible. It's gonna be a biohazard and at least the third worst decision I've made this year. So, great.
In the 2 to 3 week range, I should be able to get the block done. And then we can move on to the next 80 things we have to do.
Assembling the entire car. Where is your happy place in this car? Because this, I remember I only got to see it start up and move when I came over for the Sevens Day event. But look at it. I know like because it's your baby, your standards will always be 15 feet above what is physically possible, but like...
well, if you're speaking visually, I'm pretty much done with it. I don't need anything too much crazier than that. We are going to put the DCT in it to see what we can do in that case.
I didn't have any idea you were doing that. Well, you've already done that on, I forget his name, the purple.
Oh, Taj. Well, no. Taj actually, he's the one that pioneered, him and a few other guys, the transmission deal. I helped him with the mechanical end and the turbos and all that, and he's the one that's basically talked me into the transmission.
Nice.
We'll see what we can do with it and how fast that blows up. But it should be interesting.
It's good to be prepared. What DCT do you use? Like, I don't think I've ever heard of DCT swapping anything.
Well, I mean, it's out of the BMW. It's a 7-speed, and they make a kit for it, and it tends to work pretty good. It's just the speed of the shifting that really should be able to help get the power down to the ground. It's all a bit of an experiment again. This is 1,000 horsepower, and a 2,700 pound car is already a little crazy, but we'll see if we can make it more effective with the transmission. Is basically the point.
Do you tend to do drag events in this, or track days, or just it's the ultimate fun?
Get me back and forth to work.
Perfectly reasonable.
We'll see if we can break an 8-second pass on the crew car. It's kind of the idea.
True, a 13 and a half in my STI, I'll have you know. Look out.
Not bad.
It was, I lined up next to a BMW.
Uh-oh.
It was a D-badged M235i with stock wheels on it.
Okay.
Turns out, I guess it was an X-Drive. I was so confused.
It's an awful feeling, isn't it?
Yeah. It's because it's like there's nothing left. Like all the driving that would have impacted that had already been done. And now it's just like I have to watch the car disappear over the horizon.
Hence the reason for a 3-rotor.
Yeah.
Hopefully that won't happen that often.
Well,
If at all. Ever.
if it does, it'll be entirely my fault, I'm sure. I am so excited for this. This is one of those things, like when I was, God, not to make myself sound like a fetus, but 2006, so when I was like 10 years old,
Okay.
8 or 10 years old, I was already looking on eBay for like RX7s and the Veil side to try and convince my dad to get one, which was in retrospect the funniest thing. But like this has been more than, how old am I? This is like 3/4 of my life that I've had this car in my head. And the fact that like I'm being irresponsible enough to do it is terrifying.
One lovely one at home already, right?
Yeah, I keep starting it and I keep turning on, but I'm still staring at 49,951. And it's just...
I understand. We've got some other crazy stuff coming up that it's really going to make way more horsepower than this. So we'll see. For me, I think 1,000 horsepower is insane on the RX7 in the street car, but we will be making faster ones.
Labored sign. You're certainly indulging me a little bit on my ridiculous fantasy, but hopefully I can bring you along for some skids after it's done and it'll all be worth the heartache and dealing with my 17,000 different decisions on one decision.
This is fine. Like I said, and your goals are reasonable. It's not like you're asking me for 1,500 horsepower, so.
This looks like it's well on its way. My contribution intellectually is zilch, so I'm just gonna get out of your way and let you go home pretty soon. But thanks for letting me look at everything again, and
no problem.
Also thank you for the advice on the rescue mission.
All right.
I'll keep you in the loop.
Let me know where to pick you up.
Yeah. You promise?
We'll figure it out.
All right, well, on to the next step. I gotta get ready for a biking shoot tomorrow. That will pay for this.